Eugene's mama, Min Hee-jin, snuck in another press conference, y'all. This time in the form of a so-called lecture at a Hyundai card event. She was supposed to be talking about her role as a producer breaking the mold of K-pop, and it devolved into a very defensive type of press conference, essentially. The event was officially called the 2024 Hyundai Car Da Vinci Motel in Itaewon, and they had this sort of like a hipster concept because Hyundai Card is sort of like the cool generation's credit card in Korea. And they had a weekend of speakers of people who were thought leaders and people who were in the Korean cultural zeitgeist. And her selection of being a lecturer over there was quite controversial, but Hyundai Car didn't back down. And now when I look at it in this context that we're in, I honestly think that this was supposed to be her victory speech. We found out that the April press conference essentially had already been in the works as more of an attack, but then she had to go on the defensive and an attack. And with this part of the media play campaign of her making this speech at Hyundai Card, it almost felt like it was supposed to be her Liberation Day speech of being independent now as having her own label outside of HYBE with New Jeans, but everything didn't go according to plan. And I don't even know if she uses Hyundai card or not, but she sure was maxing out her cookie card that night. She was giving that cookie card a workout like she was looking for Girl Scouts. So it felt very defensive. It felt like a press conference, but it was a bit hard to find the entire video. And at best, I was able to find the audio, which was fine because I don't know if I could have handled looking at her speak and talk for an hour and 45 minutes. And even just listening to her, I had to space it out over 3-4 days because you listen to her straight from beginning to end with her little motor mouth. She will literally give you motion sickness and put a hex on you. So you have to be really aware of when you listen to her because it just keeps assaulting your sanity. And to be fair, she did talk a little bit about what she was supposed to talk about in the lecture because people came to listen to the topic of Min Hee-jin's freestyle, a producer who breaks the formula of K-pop. Did she talk about that? Was it, insightful in some ways in the industry of K-pop? I would say maybe about 15% of it. But she essentially did another press conference. It was rambling, not coherent. It had so many tangents. So I'm going to try to compress it and organize it, and then also give my thoughts about what agenda she was pushing. The problem with listening to somebody like Min Hee-jin is that her agenda will get into you subliminally. And she will speak it in a way with a lot of rambling under the guise of she has no agenda. She didn't prepare for this talk. And in some ways, I do believe she didn't prepare. But in some ways, I know that she does prepare in her mind certain message points that she wants to get across to convince you of. And so by the end of this, you're probably, if you are susceptible to the power of suggestion in this kind of a way, feel like she made some points. And if you're totally just in the bucket of Min Hee-jin, you might think like, oh, she seemed genuine and frank and honest again because she hits upon the sounds and the styles of somebody who is desperately telling the truth. And most people would never believe that somebody could go that far with the emotive, desperate pleas to be believed if you were lying. So that's a cognitive dissonance that a lot of people don't want to handle. So they'll say like, oh, she must be telling the truth. But we're here to actually listen and analyze what she said. And yeah, this Ajumma really gives lessons on lying. So she started this talk by sucking up to Apple as an advertiser, even though it was a Hyundai card event. So I don't know if she was thinking about using Cookie Pay to pay off some reporters and got some confused, but she was sucking up to Apple. She was sucking up to the CEO of Hyundai Card. And then she went on to suck up to the bunnies. So she knows. So that is strategic. That is somewhat somebody who knows how to give a speech like this. You're sucking up to all the power in the room and acknowledging them so that they can keep supporting you. And so but the bunnies was a half-assed attempt. She said that she went on about, oh, I wanted to make some green tote bags with the parachute fabric, but we couldn't afford the minimum order quantity. So hopefully when I can afford it, we're going to make these really cool tote bags for you bunnies. And this is a woman who says that she must run the business side of a door, can't even get a free tote bag out. Now we're at 4 minutes and 30 seconds, and she still hasn't started her talk about K-pop. She's now talking about her appearance. She was justifying the hats. She said that I don't like dressing up or showing my face anywhere. She said she was traumatized by that press conference. Honey, that press conference and the one that followed is probably one of the most expensive things that you bought. Many girls just dream about buying Birkin bags, but you went ahead and bought some press conferences. And now she's having buyer's remorse. Then she brings in God, saying God must be testing me, using the adversity of the press conference to get her over her traumatic fears. She blamed the reporters then for picking out weird pictures of crying. But girl, no, you gave all sorts of hideous crying face. And she says like, I didn't even cry that much. Yeah, well, we did see the dry Kleenex, but we did see the multiple attempts to show that you were crying, even though them Kleenexes could have been used like 3 or 4 times throughout the conference. Nothing got onto them. Then she also said, I don't really even swear that much. I didn't swear that much. I only swore once or twice. Now, this is something absolutely verifiable as her lying. She swore up and down that press conference. The media has already compiled a whole segment on it. She was swearing, but the audacity of that to then say like, oh, I don't really like my appearance, that's why I wear hats, I don't want to be filmed, although she buys these expensive press conferences. Oh, I don't swear that much, I only swore once or twice in that press conference, although we already have it on tape that you swore more than a sailor. And then she said that she got angry, and she said that she's a natural swearer. So she's like, oh, I don't swear that much. I didn't swear that much, but I got angry and I'm a natural swearer. Okay, we're still not into the whole K-pop. We're still into just her. And she's trying to now justify her swearing as a coping mechanism for her mental health problems. She says that she has had a lot of stress, and she's like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to nighttime entertainment establishments, as if that's the only way to relieve stress. So she's saying that she swears to relieve stress. But why does your mind only go to that, like drinking, smoking, going to nighttime establishments? She's used this train of thought multiple times as a justification for what she does and how she doesn't do it. So now that she's protesting so much, saying like, I don't do that, it makes me wonder if she really does do that. Because if your grandma comes and always says, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go to nightclubs to relieve stress, you'd be like, Grandma, why are you talking about that? Like, well, now that you say it, do you? Because that's not something you have to continuously say you don't do if you don't really do it. Now we're at minute 6:45. Still no talk about K-pop. She goes actually into her panic order diagnosis to explain the swearing. And so she said, 13 years ago, I had a racing heartbeat. I went to the hospital to figure out what was wrong with me, did tons of tests, and then she says I did them with a cardiologist at Severance Hospital. So she's name dropping hospital brands. So it's sort of like saying like, I went to Cedars-Sinai to get the test. And then she said she got a psych referral, and then the psychiatrist diagnosed panic attacks. And then she says, I usually take Xanax, but then I really don't. So then she kind of dropped how like she has Xanax. So I don't know, like is she trying to say she's not dependent on Xanax? And then again, it kind of makes it, you think like, well, why are you bringing that up and saying you don't have a problem, when if you really didn't have a problem, you're not going to say that you don't have a problem. But she does this a lot, like, I do this, but no, I don't. Like, she contradicts herself with not really that much of a time lag. And then she says like, oh, I'm going to have to probably sell my house, I'll have to probably sell my house. So we'll get into that later. Then she said that the doctor and her talked about like how to relieve stress. And she says like, I don't go drinking. I don't go smoking. I don't go dancing, as if those are the only things to relieve stress. Like maybe she can try, knitting some hats and killing two birds with one stone. And maybe even Sakura can help you with some knitting patterns and yarn and recommendations on which gauges or sizes of the knitting needles to use for whatever kind of things. I mean, she is saying that because she doesn't drink, smoke, or go to nighttime establishments, she and her doctor figured out that she should swear in order to relieve her stress. And again, even that diagnosis, like calling it stress, a lot of times people will just say it's stress when really it's other things. Like there's a whole litany of things that can cause mental pain and disorders. And she's just calling it stress. Okay, we'll just go with stress. We're at minute 9. Still no talk about the K-pop industry. Now she's talking about like her persona, saying that she hates virtue signaling people in the industry or in general. She says that she's a person that is upfront with people, talks to them in front of their face. So she's trying to justify like, if she swears or curses or sounds offensive, she's being real, because she also hates the hypocrisy of people in the industry who try to pretend they're so virtuous, but really they're just talking crap about people behind someone's back. And she's saying like, she's specifically referring to people who talk about others behind their back, which we have seen her do, calling Chairman Pang Shi-hyuk a fat pig. So I wonder if she's ever went up to Chairman Pang Shi-hyuk and called him a fat pig to his face. Otherwise, she's doing exactly what she says that she hates about the industry. Now she's going into like why she's so upfront, because she was always born a bit of a rebel and she likes pouring cold water on people who are fronting. It's a habit. And she says, don't worry, I'm not going to swear today. I have nothing to swear about. But then of course later on she does. And so these stressors are not the source of your panic disorder. I think really it's panicking over not being able to remember all the lies and put them in order and in sequence. And maybe if she did take up knitting, she could try to imagine and physicalize her lies being knitted into something probably concrete that she can refer to as a blueprint, because I think her panic disorder is coming from not being able to remember all of her lies. Then she goes on for 2 more minutes talking about DMs, social media, people checking up on her, how she loves, being, thought about in that way, turning down so many book offers, teaching offers, because she's not interested in the money. Also, book offers, teaching offers, honey, those things are not about money. Those are meant to raise your profile. Anyhow, minute 12, still no mention of the K-pop industry. She goes now on into her interpersonal relationships and how she wishes everyone would come with a manual. If you haven't caught on to the red flags of narcissistic personality disorder, this is just laid out here. Very good revelation of her pathology. She couches it in the sense of interpersonal conflicts and dynamics about how everybody has different temperaments and they have different triggers and, things that may create conflict. That sounds right. And then she wishes that everybody would come with a manual so that you would know how to not get into arguments. However, the way it reads and what very much is congruent with a narcissistic personality disorder is that you want to be able to know how to manipulate and control people, and it would be much easier if you had a manual. You wouldn't be making as many mistakes. You wouldn't be misreading as much. I think that is more the source of this stress and interpersonal conflicts. It's not because you don't have a manual on somebody else's personality. Nobody has a manual on other people's personalities. Perhaps the conflict is when somebody realizes that you're trying to steal from them, you're trying to destroy their life's work, and you're trying to sabotage and then make them look like the bad person. You're going to have a bit of conflict personally, manual or no manual. We're at minute 14 now, and finally, she's sort of starting to talk about the topic of the talk, about her being a producer. So she says that she transitioned from being a designer, like a graphic designer, into a producer of K-pop. Okay, good. This is what we came here for. This was a really long ramp up. And then she starts with her childhood. Okay, fine. That's really what minute 1 to 14, or maybe like minute 1 to 4 should have been. So she talks about her childhood, her origin story. And then she says, I didn't even really like K-pop or popular music. She was a cultural outlier. Oh, she's so special. Okay, fine. And she did say why she didn't like pop music. She said that pop music didn't give her a feeling. Okay, well, it certainly gives a lot of other people feelings, but to be fair, in the way that she wanted to innovate and revolutionize, she said it didn't give her any feelings, and so instead she watched TV a lot. This, I think, is very important insight into her and her evolution as a K-pop producer, the way that she did it very visually. She didn't love the music. She's not a music person. She never really even came from that world. She gravitated towards television. Music had no feelings for her. Television captured her attention. And then she grabbed onto graphic design from Photoshop. So she's definitely a visual person in the music industry, even though music industry based on sound. But we can see how I'm making her lecture sound so much better than she did. But we can see how she evolved into the type of producer that K-pop needed at the moment where she was there to handle the visual product that goes along with the music. Another important thing that she mentioned was that she was studying graphic design and doing stuff more like typography rather than drawing. She said she couldn't draw for art school. And so that shows from an early age, she's not the artist. She's more of the producer. She said then she was stuck, in the middle of an analog and digital generation. I know, we're the same age. Boo-hoo. Nobody's giving us any awards for that. Trust. Gotta go. Gotta pick a side. You either gotta be like, oh, I can't do anything like this because I'm too old for this technology. Or you gotta get in with the Gen Z and just look over their shoulder and figure out what buttons are pushing. But I think her point was, she said that it was difficult to listen to music at that time. True. because you either had to pay for it or listen to it on the radio. And then she said she relied on the radio. She recorded songs she liked on blank cassette tapes. I thought she didn't like music, but she made the effort to, press record on that tape recorder. And then when Napster came out, which was essentially kind of like the free version of a Spotify, people just, that was a gold mine bonanza illegal era where people were just downloading music and not paying for it. And so she said that that's when her world kind of opened in terms of music. She was able to, because you don't have to pay for it, you're able to just source all these types of different, sample a bunch of music. And so that, I think, is an important description of how she evolved in terms of like getting familiar with the music industry. Then she talked about actually buying CDs. She said buying CDs back then were expensive. Yeah, it is expensive. It was 10,000 to 15,000 won. You guys all remember, like $10 to $15. And she protected her CD jewel cases like they were so precious. Then at minute 17, she gets a little bit creepy. She said that there was a male teacher in middle school she really liked, a history teacher, and she agonized over whether to give a gift of a CD to him. So now we're getting into the whole kind of origin stories of the inspiration for Cookie about, supposedly it was about burning CD mixtapes for your friends. But here she wanted to give a gift of a CD to this older adult male teacher. I guess you could do this, and maybe it's okay, especially if it's the holidays maybe, but it didn't seem like that at all. It was more about like she wanted to really give this gift, and she said that this was so precious to me. To him, it wasn't really, that much. I hope it was just a CD as a cookie, because it's being coded as like she's having a therapy session. So then she said that, she listened to CDs from beginning to end, even though she said she didn't like pop music. And then she was obsessively reading the CD booklets without trying to wear it down. She even had like a little pouch she made to carry the CD jewel case. So I don't know, which is it? You liked it or didn't like it? If you didn't like it, you don't listen to it from beginning to end. Minute 19, she talked about going into SM entertainment, and she boasted about how irreverent she was, yet respectful. And she said that, I went into that interview saying like, I don't like pop music. Oh, girl, like, for the shock value. Yes, I think especially at that time when she was doing that, that could be kind of a fun calling card, like to make a distinction between her and other candidates, for her to like grab attention like that. Why are you at a music, company interviewing? And she's like, I don't even like, pop music. Okay. I could see how she was using that as a ploy, also sort of being true to her. And then also applying for a graphic design job, which basically is, a step removed from the music. So in some ways, I think that makes sense, if she was really going to then sell herself on being a great graphic designer. And she also said that I didn't really care if I got the job or not. I was just interviewing places. And then she said that she got the job and there was really no graphic department or system in place, but she was encouraged. And so during that era, even though it was like second generation K-pop during that era, I think when she moved in, it was still, you can kind of think of it as early days in the sense of it codifying as a business or industry with best practices. It looks like they were still figuring things out as they went along. And so she was really encouraged. And so she really liked that, and that made her stay. So that answers the question of like, well, if you didn't really like music and you're a graphic designer, why don't you go, somewhere else? She liked the continuous positive feedback and reinforcement like anybody does while she was growing in her career. And she said that she didn't like though about the job as a graphic designer. Now we get to see her proclivities. She said she didn't like how she had no power. she had no power over the photos, over the image. She got the images, and then she was supposed to create a graphic design from that, particularly the CD booklet or the jewel case covers. So then she said she started influencing the stylists to give them direction. And, you know, she's saying like, oh, well, how would the stylist listen to me? Or then she's saying she found her way, because in some ways you can see like how it makes sense. Like if you are wanting to have a particular vision for the final visual product, but the photos are taken in a different way, the styling is in a different way from what you want, then it could be a conflict. Although, you know, you can argue whether she should have done that or not. Like she shouldn't have done it because she should have just followed orders as an employee. She should have done it because she was showing genius and, you know, breaking the mold, which was supposed to be about the talk that she was doing. So I'm going to favor more towards like, okay, fine. Yeah. If you really have like, if you're going to be like that creative director, you know, these are early signs. You want to see somebody, you know, pushing the envelope. And then she said that she moved on from the stylist to now the photographer. She started picking the photographers, and then started doing the styling herself. So you could see like how now in the creative chain of command, she's just taking over and controlling all of these aspects, and to have her vision come through. The thing that I have a problem with at this point is that is her vision of the visual. Does it align with the music? And she, you know, she doesn't really care about the music. And so why does she feel like she, you know, it's all about her, in the sense of like, this is my vision for the visual, but then, you know, you're not involved in the music and you're not the artist anyway. That's a bit of a problem for me. She said that this was the girls' generation era, and then she started to feel pain about how the idols looked in the music videos. So now it's not just about the CD jacket cover, it's the music video. She wants to control how they look in the music videos. So then she tries to mold the vision that she has of these idols into her own vision. Now, she's the one that brought up God first, okay? So I will bring up God in this way. If you don't hear the subtext of this is not godly. She's trying to play God. Not only is she molding idols' images for idol worship, she's molding them in her image, or the image that she wants. So this has Lucifer and all that. Well, yeah, she danced around the woods with the shaman, all of that written over it from an early time. But back to what she was saying, she, yes, expanded her authority into the music videos. And then in minute 26, she talks about how she rebelled against the SM manual for the music video. So yes, thank you for confirming that there's an SM manual for, you know, the secret K-pop formula. So now this makes sense in the sense of what she was trying to talk about in the title of her talk was Breaking the Formula. And so she's saying that that's when she's rebelling against the actual Isuman's SM Entertainment's formula for successful K-pop. Everything, you know, had all the recipes from the way that you look to the way the music videos were shot. But she said that there was no teaser videos. She created the teaser videos. She said there was no film-like structure for the music video. So she takes credit for that. And that does somewhat make sense, because she said that she was obsessed with TV, and it seems like she's always dropping these TV shows that she is watching, I guess, to escape, and how it is resonating with her life at the moment. So it seems like she really loves the visual format. But she said that she hated having to always get confirmation from the company. So once you're on the scale of a music video, that's money, that's time, that's resources. So she can't just do whatever she wants, especially if she started out as a graphic designer. Like, who's going to listen to her? So she's always trying to she has to get approvals from the company, and she hated that. And she said that that was like the system that she started to rebel against, where, I mean, she can call it that, but is it really a K-pop system that she doesn't like, or she just basically wants to control everything and not have any accountability over it? Anyhow, so she was also mentioning about a specific case in a music video where she was, there was a hill that she was willing to die on. Like, she needed to keep a scene where Crystal from FX eats and swallows paper. I don't know why, how, didn't really go into it. Minute 28, she said that people keep asking me though, like, wow, how do you get your way? What is your own playbook? And she says, there's no magic formula. I never got things so easy. Stop saying that things came to me so easy. People have different personalities. Now she goes into like how to work with people, personalities. So she says you have to understand your boss. So she's going into the Jezebel manual of how to manipulate within a organizational structure to get what you want. So she said you have to know how to persuade, or in her case, manipulate, learned early on the necessity, I believe, of manipulation. But she couched it in the sense of like, you have to understand the different personality types where people's buttons are and who your boss is and who you are in relation to your boss. So basically, yeah, the whole power game. But in her case, there's different ways of understanding that is the dynamic within a company, but the way that she did it, it looks like it had a lot of deception, manipulation, and underhanded maneuvers that won't really grow the company in the long run. And usually that kind of stuff makes a lot of your top talent flee. Anyhow, minute 30, she goes on a weird tangent of the importance of studying when you're a young kid because it's easier to memorize things. When she was in kindergarten, she had a good memory. She rejected even the chance to learn a bike because she didn't want to embarrass herself. So I don't know, some maybe trauma got triggered here. Or she's also she's trying to give the impression that there's a difference between street smarts and book smarts. And obviously she leans on street smarts, and especially as a justification for her outlandish behavior. Minute 31, she reveals, I think, a major inspiration of her manipulation playbook, but she just talks about like, Screw Tape Letters, that book by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was a Christian writer, and then Screw Tape Letters focuses on lessons that demons give each other. And she said that this was a little bit weird of how she, I think, just kind of unmasked this. She said that one of the main lessons that resonated with her was that the demon said that one of the big strategies on winning the world is to make people forget the important things by belittling them and making them seem unimportant, which is like the foundation of her media play. Like, where's the laptop? That is so important, but she's been able to really minimize that, make it not seem as important. The embezzlement, not really important. The sexual harassment, workplace bullying, not very important. What is important? Oh my God, you didn't say hi back to me in the elevator. Somebody might have said something to one of the New Jeans members outside the makeup studio. And that going all the way to now National Assembly investigation. We'll get into that maybe in a different video, but that has corruption all over it. Minute 34. She complains about the former bosses she says that had virtue signaled and said that you need to know how to navigate office politics. But then she says that she doesn't like to use honorifics. So if you're navigating office politics, you definitely know the handbook on honorifics, basically gesturing respect for older people or people in higher positions than you through even your sentence structure. And she said, I don't like using it, and Americans don't like it either. Why are you dragging America into this? It's totally separate. And she says that there is a formality that she doesn't like there. Then she kind of wanders into this territory. Now, even though she's wandering, she's going to the important part of her agenda to get a subliminal message across. So now she's differentiating between freelancer and employee. And she says like, oh, I didn't want to be a freelancer, because she's anticipating an audience response or somebody countering back at her like, well, if you don't like all these rules, regulations, checking in, like, and using honorifics, it sounds like you don't even like to be an employee. Why don't you just be a freelancer? And then she said that she doesn't want to be a freelancer because she wants to control the direction on the overall deliverables. What she didn't say, though, which I think is extremely telling, is that she can't be a freelancer, because a freelancer has to deliver a specific artistic product. Remember, she said she can't even draw. She said that she can't, she doesn't care about music. What would she freelance for? So she wants to be a producer. I guess you could be a freelance producer, but she would have more power as a producer who is a regular employee of the company. So that's why that makes sense. She's trying to make this sound like it's all in some sort of moral, emotional kind of personality thing. But really what she's driving at is that she needs the power of the position to get the most amount done that she can, or have the most amount of power. So a freelancer would definitely not fulfill those things. Now she goes into like, oh, the freelancers I work with, how artistic and sensitive they are. And she's trying to say like they need this space and protection to have creativity. Minute 41, finally, she talks about why she created New Jeans. And she said that she wanted to do all the music too when she realized she could make New Jeans. But then she realized, oops, she's not a composer. So she also shades now Isuman, the founder of SM, who was a singer. And she says, well, I couldn't do the music anyway, but anyway, people who are the singers shouldn't be even doing the business. Now she's trying to draw lines. She has to say like, I must be the producer and also control the business. But then she's also now at the same time, she's saying, oh, but the artist, they should never do business according to her rules in her world. And so it looks like any area that she can't do, oh, it's okay if other people do it, but if she can do it, she must have control over everything. And she says that this is couched in like formulaic thinking, formula, like she brings in like, she tries to make an analogy to like North Korea being too dictatorial, or like college entrance exams being too, multiple choicey. And then she doesn't really finish that thought. And then she goes, oh, but I made the SM logo. I made the HYBE slogan. We believe in music because you have to put your soul into it. So she's trying to go against like saying like, oh, it's not about formula. It's about soul. It's like her soul, like my soul. What's she talking about? And then she's like saying like there's no soul in music before she came onto the scene? Put out a press release, y'all. Now she's doing something weird. She's saying that there is a synergy between art and business. But then she also complains about how business interferes with art. So let me just try to make it clear for you, because she's saying that the suits over at SM messed up her beautifully crafted artistic creations. She called them old dog and women like kejoshi, kejunma, but that didn't count in her book as swearing. And she says they're all pretending to be holier than thou. All right, this goes really loopy. She talks about how there's preciousness in seeing the potential of artists that they didn't see, but she saw, that she couldn't erase. And she tried to say like, like how moms keep the drawings of their kids, even though their heads look like monsters. I don't know what kind of picture she was drawing about her mom, but let's go with it. And then she goes into fan art, how the New Jeans people love the fan art. But okay, we're at minute 49 now. And then so I guess her ADHD went to New Jeans again. And she says like, oh, the work ethic of the New Jeans girls, they get so much adrenaline and they get really excited from being on stage, and they can't sleep. And then she says, well, some of them can sleep. And then when I ask them, oh, wow, how can you sleep so well? They say, oh, we have something important tomorrow on our schedule, so we have to prepare. She's like, oh, they're so responsible. All right, minute 51. She's now talking about astral projection and leaving her soul or her body to look at herself, to control her mind, about happiness, what it really means to be happy, and all of this soul searching. The result was to have her own label. All of this soul searching made her realize she needs to integrate management and production to justify her stance. You guys, this is all loopy, but it has the plot points that she wants you to get, to say that she needs to be CEO that has control over production and the business side, and she needs to be the CEO of Adore to then reiterate again her conflict. This was supposed to be about her breaking the mold of the K-pop industry, but really this is at minute 51 a strong talking point as a press conference in her ongoing corporate battle with HYBE. She wanted to experiment with her life. Her whole life was an experiment on what she could do. Again, this is giving narcissism vibes, and usually with narcissists there's your true self that you are so ashamed of that you destroy, and so you spend your life building a false self, a false persona that you show to the world, and then your fake self becomes the real self, and anything that threatens that fake self, which there's a lot of threats, because if it's fake, it's really hard to keep alive. But anything that threatens it, you attack. And so she says, this is an experiment with myself. Normal people would be like, let's see how far we can go and challenge myself. But I think she really is creating her own version of a Frankenstein that's her. And that would resonate with the whole narcissism thing. Minute 53, she goes into the lawsuit saying nobody really can endure what I've been through and the cost of it. Oh, it's about 2.3 billion won. People are saying that's suspiciously high because she hasn't really even truly gone to court in a court case. She's only done injunctions, which are, essentially trial sizes of a wrinkle cream, rather than the big thing. And so why is it that expensive, about $2 million? A lot of people are saying that's probably the fees that it costs for her press conferences and her media plays. And we already do know as a fact that the law firm and the media company that is publicly saying that they are representing her are intertwined. So it's like a 2-for-1 deal. So she says that she's going to have to sell her house, but then she says, oh, well, I think I probably have to sell it. So which one is it, girl? In 1 second, she reverses her statement. And then she says that, she's not a person that really saves up money. She spends money. But then she also just said, in a few sentences later, that if I didn't have money saved, then I wouldn't be able to fight this fight, because it's about proving to rich people that they can't get away with everything. Minute 54, she says, okay, I'm going to swear once. And she's like, F it, I have to win. We got to win and teach a lesson to all these powerful people. But what lesson are you trying to prove? That you should be able to steal? Then she goes on about I never said I was leaving the company. Excuse me, you said that, on all the evidence, it says that you were planning and wanting to leave the company. Or take the company with you. So maybe technically it's not true. She didn't want to leave the company. She just wanted to take the company and run off with it. So, okay, I guess you're telling the truth. And then she said oh my God, my lawyers and I were shocked when they said that I wanted to usurp Adore. I don't even know what that word means. Well, probably true because she's not a studier, but that doesn't mean that you weren't doing it. Just because you don't know the word of what you're doing doesn't mean that you weren't doing it. And she said, I'm going to be found not guilty because you can't make up a crime that doesn't exist. I think this is a clue, actually, into her legal strategy. It's not just crazy talk. I think her legal strategy is try to classify her actions into a category that has no law governing it, or has no penalty or crime associated with it. We saw a little bit of a preview with this with her injunction strategy, where the judge was forced to acknowledge that because her contract said that she didn't violate a door, she was good. But she definitely violated the contract if it were made with HYBE. And because of a legal technicality where she didn't commit any crimes against a door, she was safe. That looks like what she's trying to continuously do is that let's classify, let's relabel, reframe, her favorite word, reframe all of her actions into something that is not a crime. Where everybody knows that, like, look, you're holding a bloody knife, girl. Minute 56, she says, I'm going to make a documentary and spill all the tea, list all the receipts, and then say, like, I don't party, I don't, like, again, do you go out and party all the time? Because you keep saying, like, I don't party, I just stay at home. I don't party, I just stay at home. Why you protest so much? Where are you getting your VIP access? And this is why I think she keeps parroting this to give you a subliminal message to think like, no, she's just a homebody. She's just a homebody. But she doesn't talk about any homebody type of activities. She says she's still stressed. A real homebody is lighting a candle, knitting, reading, doing crochet, doing a puzzle, something. Something will come out about like, I'm a homebody and I do this. She says that she's a homebody and she goes home and screams. Yeah, she actually said this in the press conference. I didn't want to say, but she did say that. So I wonder if she really does go out there, hit the town all like incognito. And is there a report that's going to come out where like, she'd be turning up and she's embarrassed by it? And so what this strategy does is that it creates this whole like huge like crust of like, if it's like the Earth's crust that you have to get through in your mind of cognitive dissonance, like, no, she's a homebody. No, she's a homebody. No, it can't be her like turning up at Burning Sun Part 3. No. So it's a very much a good strategy, especially then you have it sprinkled out and spread out through all the flying monkeys who repeat that, and they do the work for you to minimize any kind of suspicions that, maybe she'd be doing something, maybe she'd be having some freak offs. Minute 59. She says she's the one taking all the punches. I hope you don't have to deal with what I'm going through, but it must be destiny because I'm here to save the K-pop system. People are trying to save themselves from you, not just K-pop. At the 1 hour, 1 minute mark, she is waxing poetic about an unfair world that doesn't know from right from wrong, talking about cremation and her death, but saying that she's not suicidal and that she's not a narcissist. I mean, this girl is talking about God like one of her cookies sweating in church on a Sunday. Then she defends herself against accusations of meeting with investors, but again, it's all about like her. She says that, I'm not interested in business or money because one of my bosses, probably SM, offered me to go get my MBA overseas, but I decided that wasn't for me because she hates studying. She has an impatient personality. Yeah, it sounds like you're lazy, you lack impulse control, and you're only saved by these bipolar manic episodes of maybe like you do intense amount of work in a short period of time. We'll get into the bipolar thing in a little bit. And then she says she wanted to change the rules of the idol industry. So she's saying that she is more like the street smarts. She's focusing on the idols. She's somehow forgot the question about investors. And then she's saying like idols should be treated like athletes, pretty athletes though. Well, I guess they have pretty faces, but people judge their personalities a bit too harshly and then they want to even destroy them. Oh, it's a cruel world. They're kids. Her mind is not stable. And this is coming from somebody who gives a lot of leeway to people who have ADHD and, are bent on the creative side. And she is denying mental health. She's saying like these kids go crazy later because they need to let it all out, but then it's something that even psychiatrists can't help because they don't understand. And then she says like, I don't really have like a close bond with celebrities, or I didn't want to. But then didn't you say you have like this indescribable close connection with the girls? And these girls are sending you messages as if they're your therapists. Like you're the idol and they're your fans. Like you're the one that they idolize. This is the problem. Minute and 11, she goes into the drama Homeland. Again, she's obsessed with TV. Maybe she just watches TV all day. And she said that, she really loves Homeland. Is it a British-American drama? Oh, it's probably American. Is it on HBO? No, it's on Showtime. It's an American. It's kind of shady for her to say that. It's sort of saying like, New Jeans, is that like SM or YG? Oh, I don't know. Is it Chinese or Japanese or Korean? Anyhow, she loved it so much. She said that she told her friend, I'm just like her. Claire Danes, the main character, she says, I'm really miserable. And this drama is great because they find happiness in their own way. Okay, let's take a moment, a little bit of an aside, to delve into Homeland and the character that Claire Danes actually portrays. This is not somebody you want to publicly say that you resonate with and that you identify with. Carrie Matheson is the name of the character played by Claire Danes in this Showtime series Homeland, and she has a history of mental illness that she hides from everybody she works with, including bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder. What are some of the symptoms? Lack of impulse control, narcissism, and a little bit of genius. These are the things that she describes herself as. Definitely genius, lacking impulse control. She says she's not a narcissist, but everybody who looks at her knows she's a narcissist. So it's no wonder that she resonates with the character of Homeland, but she's totally like missing the mark by saying like, I really identify with her. Well, then thank you for being truthful, but I don't think you intended on being. Then she goes on about how she hates the traditional K-pop system. And she says that the system is designed sort of like as a business mindset from the manufacturing or IT areas, where it's designed to make the employees comfortable but not advance the industry. So she's basically saying the K-pop industry is stifling creativity and development of artistry, although she's been accused of essentially reaching back, beyond the times of K-pop to claim that artistry as her own. I don't know what system you call that. Klepto K-pop. But her point is that, it's because the human heart is different. You may like me one day or hate me the next day. This is not a factory where you can just say like everybody just sit, in a straight line. Why do you break up with people? Why do people break their loyalty? I mean, she's going into all sorts of like trying to be a T.S. Eliot at the dollar store. And she's trying to go into about like how the human element is the foundation of the K-pop business. So people like her need a flexible environment. If there's too many leaders stirring the pot, it's a problem. But what is your point, though? Because you haven't offered an alternative to this system. It basically, everything up until this point still just shows how you're just rebelling against that system. But if that system weren't there, you would never have been able to put your claim on producing all of these artists or the music videos or the creative concepts. If there was nobody keeping the lights on, creating the deals, making sure that the music is done a certain way, you wouldn't have been able to do anything without this system. So, unless you show how you can do everything your own way, plus another system, then you really have no business. So it seems as if she really just wants to take over the system and control it herself and do it her way and call that an alternative system. Whereas essentially it's the K-pop system, but she's the one in charge. And I think she really did show her true cards again at the 1 hour 17 mark, where she says, you know how I said before I don't want to be a freelancer? It's because I want to change the organization a bit and do something new. To be a director, not a specialist. A good director or leader needs to know how to spot good people and move people around to make a project successful. So she really just wants to control an organization or a company and use people to do all of the work. And on some levels, that is business. So that's the traditional system. You are going to hire people to deliver what you want, and then you piece it together and you control the overall direction. How is that any different from multitudes of businesses in all sorts of fields? It's the same thing. What she really did reveal, I think, was that she's not talented enough to do the actual work, so she just wants to control people who do the work. She's good at using people, but she wants to take money and resources that she doesn't have to set up an organization or a business where she can hire people, just usurp everything from somebody else's hard work and advance K-pop in a way that she wants to do it. But until now, I've not seen anything different. It's just more like she just wants to do it her style and in her way. And then she even said, like, there's no exact formula. I mentor people. They learn from me and blossom. We pay them well at a door. I don't like, it's just weird. She goes, I don't like people paying for me. I never let my boyfriend pay for my meals, insinuating that she's not a person who takes favors or accepts money. And then she says, like, oh, learn how to price your salary accurately in the marketplace. Maybe some shade at the employee where she revealed how much her employee made to the world. But she literally used this system and benefited from it, and she just didn't like how she wasn't controlling it. So again, what would you actually change about the system then? What would be different under your system? How would the artist have more flexibility? How would you actually guarantee that your business would survive in a world that is geared towards business? So I think she doesn't know the difference between artistic freedom and the commercial system, since she's not an artist. A true artist would speak very differently about this situation, but since she's not an artist, she's trying to adopt an artist persona experiment inside the role of somebody who's on the production side, and then even have the audacity to label herself as like this artistic type of producer and also want to control the business aspect. I want to race through the rest of this because she, even in retelling her story, is making me get motion sickness. And the other part that I think that was very telling was her strategy of how she pieces together her team. So it's very clear that she works closely with one music video director who does all of the visual concepts to make New Jeans look good, let's say with enhancements, and really sell it to the public. And then also the part that she can't do as well is the music. So she has an A&R person who came out of the whole SM world and set up his own label and made all of the music for New Jeans. So she works with these two guys mainly. That's kind of like her core team. These two guys are not HYBE employees. They're freelancers, or the A&R guy has his own company. And so if she were able to usurp a door and move it out, she would still be able to keep that working relationship with the most important parts, right? Like, you put out the song, you put out the music video, and then she handles the selling it to the world, guys. And so she could be able to continuously move that production after stealing a door. That's probably what her talk was going to be about, dressed up with a little bit more cotton candy on it to make it look less of a steal. But I think that's what she was supposed to talk about, had all of her plans had worked. And then at the end of September, she would be essentially being like, oh, I'm such a genius. I have my own company now because I broke out of the mold. So I think she was trying to use a strategy of painting HYBE as some place that is restrictive and abusive and old style and formulaic, and that's why she had to leave. Whereas basically she just wants to use her formulas and she wants to use other people's money and take it all for herself. Oh, and we can't forget about the cookie, because this is about her cookie card. She was defending the content of Cookie, saying like, I had no idea it would be such a controversy. And she's like, to the point where she's like, ew, like, how could you think that? Like, no, like, why are you so dirty? You could totally go back and look at my Cookie video and how I had a lot of problems with that song the moment it was released. However, looking at it now, especially in this context, I think that this song was absolutely not about them cookies, but them cookies, even more so. And looking at the lyrics again, and then especially in the context of how she keeps saying that it was about the joy of a mixtape, but on a CD, I don't think that that is true whatsoever. If you look at the lyrics of the song, not once do they really talk about audio. If it's about listening to a song, not once do they talk about creating and putting the love of the song selection into a mixtape and making it to your friends. Not once do they talk about giving it as a joyful thing to your friend for them to take along and listen at home like a gift. Out of the five senses, there was nothing about audio. It was about taste, smell, sight, and touch. And if you look at the way that they describe the cookie, they said it was like soft and velvety, not like slick and smooth. She said it was a gift, but then in the song lyrics, they straight out say the cookies ain't for free. Usually when you give like a mixtape to somebody, you give it to them at school and then they take it home, they listen to it, and then they're like, oh, hey, happy. They give you great feedback on it. But her cookies in this song, or her CDs, are only at her house and only for the boy to come over and play in order to have some of the cookies. Not even listen to the cookies. Take it. Don't break it. I want to see you taste it. Who is licking CDs? Sugar got sugar, but won't be responsible for your cavities? That is so watermelon sugar coated. Well, to be fair, there was one line that alluded to the sense of hearing. It was, let me hear your voice again, boy. How are they listening to these cookies at her place after school? Shouldn't the sound be coming from the CDs? She was told to wrap up. She was going over time, but she did give a 3-minute taste of a new song that she was considering, but already the internet has said that she's already stolen that song too. So I'll leave the links for that. But she just went on about like, oh, it's so hard to put a top line on this. It's just a beat. Yeah, obviously, because you're not a composer. And then she said, oh, honey, like a volunteer to try to put a top line on this, but it's so hard. Like she's talking about stuff that's out of her wheelhouse. So she should go back to baking cookies, or at least trying to use her cookie card to get out of trouble, because she gonna need a get out of jail card soon. But for the time being, keep working out that cookie card, girl. Alright guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.